Hi you guys, welcome back. So I'm very excited to be filming this video today. I feel like when I first started competing, this would have been a video that would have been very helpful for me. So if you are interested in competing for the first time, if you're thinking about competing, if you already have a show planned, but you're kind of overwhelmed, there are a lot of things that go into competing and it can be very easy to get confused. So this video is going to be my top tips for first-time competitors. And again, I would have loved to have a video like this back in 2015 when I competed in my first show. I was clueless, and you will see why as this video goes on. I'm gonna show you guys some pictures and tell you guys some things that I did wrong and mistakes that I've made so that you guys don't go ahead and make the same mistakes. So sit down, grab a snack, grab a drink. I don't know how long this video is gonna be. I can already tell this shirt is going to bother me. Let's just jump right in. I have a list in my notes and I'm just gonna refer to that. And let's start talking about the ins and outs of competing for the first time. So if you're newer to my channel or if this is one of the first videos you're ever seeing from me, I am a figure competitor, and figure, along with bikini, physique, men's physique, classic physique, they all fall under the umbrella of bodybuilding. So we're getting on stage, we are showing off all of our hard work, and we're being judged for it. That's terrifying. So if you're even considering competing for the first time, or if you have competed, you know how scary that can be, especially for us women that compete in bikini and figure. I know women's physique gets to be barefoot, which lucky them, but we not only are strutting our stuff up on the stage, we are also doing it in heels. So that's scary. A lot can go wrong. The more prepared you are for a show, the better. When I did my first show in 2015, I was winging it. I didn't have a coach. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I didn't know how to diet for a show. And let me tell you, it showed. So let's start talking about things that you need to know if you're thinking of competing for the first time so that you don't make the same mistakes I made. So number one on my list, and this might seem pretty obvious, but there are a couple of things I want to touch on within this bullet point, is hiring a coach. So when I did my first show, I didn't have a coach. I didn't know what to eat, when to eat it. I didn't know what body parts I should be focusing on for the figure division. I was clueless, and it showed on stage. I didn't know anything. And when I got to the show, I saw all these girls with their coaches, and I was like, idiot. So hiring a coach is so important. It takes the guesswork out of it. There were so many times during my first prep where I was second guessing what I was doing. I wasn't sure if this was right. I wasn't sure if I was eating enough, and that adds such an element of stress onto your prep. It's just not worth it. So if you are thinking of doing your first show without a coach, I highly recommend that you reconsider that. But not only getting a coach, and this is what I wanted to touch on within this category, not only just hiring the first coach that you see online, do your research on the coach. And by that I mean, look into, if, for example, if you're finding them on Instagram, look into clients that they have, maybe previous clients. If you feel comfortable reaching out to one of the clients, just asking, for some feedback. The more information that you can get on this person before you hire them, the better. You really want to develop a good relationship with the coach. And not only that, you are putting your health in this person's hands. And that's a big deal. So I've seen time and time again, these girls that hire coaches, and men, I'm sure as well, and they diet them down for the show, whatever, and they never hear from this coach again. So they don't know how to reverse diet. They rebound, they gain a bunch of weight all at once, and that's so scary. It's so unhealthy. So you want a coach that not only knows his shit, but cares about your health. And that's a big thing for me with Hani, is I know at the end of the day, he cares about my health more than he cares about me winning any show. And that to me is so, so important as well, obviously, because as women, our hormones can tweak out like that. So I don't want to completely wreck my hormones just to do a show. So I want to do it in the most healthy way possible. So if you are looking into a coach, do your research. So, okay, let's say we find a coach. He or she is great. They care about our health. They know what they're talking about. Great, we found this person. So when it comes to competing, everyone has an opinion. Everyone has a different opinion. Everyone does things differently. So you might say to your friend, oh, hey, I'm doing a show. This is what I'm doing right now. I'm doing cardio X amount of times a week. I'm eating this. Your friend might say,
you should do this instead. Well, I did this.
And it just gets messy really quick. Or you'll maybe see somebody online. Maybe you'll see me online and I'm saying, oh, hey, I'm doing cardio X amount of times a week and I'm eating this post-workout. And you say, oh, I should do what Lauren's doing. When you hire a coach, only listen to your coach. Do not listen to all this other buzz going around. Just trust your coach. Follow the protocol. It's that simple. It takes the guesswork out of it for you. And if you start listening to everybody telling you all these different things, you're gonna get confused, you're gonna get overwhelmed, it's gonna be messy. So once you find this coach, listen to your coach and nobody else. Okay, so number 2 on my list, and this is definitely something that I wish I was more aware of when I first got into competing, and that is making sure it's realistic for you financially. And I'm gonna be fully transparent with you here. My first show, which I was talking about earlier, when I didn't have a coach, I didn't have a coach because I couldn't afford one. I was working full time, living paycheck to paycheck, and I was just like, I can't afford a coach. All of the coaches, I reached out to a couple people, and I just felt like it was too expensive for me. But you have to make sure that competing is financially realistic for you because it is expensive. And if you find yourself deep into a prep and then all of a sudden you have to pay for a suit, you have to pay your coach, you have to pay for your groceries, you have to book the tan and get your NPC card and get your makeup done and all of these things, the heels, the posing, everything that goes into competing, it is very expensive. So if you're thinking about competing for the first time, start saving. Even if you're just thinking about it, start putting a little money away. Like I said, in 2015, I was still at a full-time desk job, hating my life, and I couldn't afford a coach. So I was just like, well, I'll do it myself, whatever. But also, suits for women are super expensive, especially like the more bedazzled and the more fancy you get, the price goes up. And full transparency, I could barely even afford a suit. So I got like a basic suit. It was literally like a standard suit and it was still expensive. But I just basically went the cheap route with everything. If you find yourself, you know, prepping for a show and then all of a sudden all of these expenses start piling up, you're gonna get really overwhelmed and it's gonna stress you out. So just being prepared financially is something that's super, super important. And I feel like a lot of people don't talk about when it comes to competing. So I just think that's really important. And I wish that I had known that because I might have waited until I had saved up a little more money or just prepared better in general financially. Because back then I didn't have the means that I have now. So it was very stressful. So I highly, highly recommend if you are looking into competing or if you have a show planned for the future, start putting a little bit of money away now. And I promise that will help lighten the load of stress as you get closer to the show. Okay, so my next tip might seem obvious if you're getting into competing, but you would be surprised. And that is, do not cut corners. So as I mentioned, competing is freaking expensive. So why are you going to invest all of your time, all of your money? Competing is a huge commitment. You can't half-ass it. You have to go all in and commit 100% or it's gonna show on stage. So if you are looking to compete or if you're in prep and you start, you know, say you have 30 minutes of cardio, and you get on, stay on the Stairmaster. This is me on the Stairmaster. And 23 minutes go by. And you say, that's enough. Stop, go home. That 7 minutes that you didn't do will bite you in the ass. I promise you. Because once you start cutting these little corners, even if you say, oh, it's just this once, I'm really tired, you know, I had a long week, there are always going to be external stressors in your life. You can't just prep and put yourself in a little bubble. So, oops. Once you get yourself in the habit of letting yourself cut corners, you're selling yourself short, you're wasting your own time, you're wasting your coach's time, and it's gonna show on stage. So if you are going to commit to doing a show, you have to be all in, or like I said, it will show. All of the work that you didn't do will show on stage. And you have to think all of these other women or men that are competing against you, you have to think in your mind, they're not cutting corners, they're doing extra. They're training harder, they're lifting heavier, they're more committed to their cardio. They're going hard on that Stairmaster. They're not just moseying through for 30 minutes. Once you allow yourself those little cheats, it adds up, and you deserve better than that. You deserve to give yourself 100% of your efforts. Your coach deserves that from you. You have maybe 16 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever your prep is, to go all in and commit to it and give your best effort. And if you're deciding to compete, decide that you're gonna go all in and you're gonna give it 100% of your efforts. And I promise you will thank yourself at the end. You don't wanna get to the show day and think, oh, I could have done more. I promise you, you will see those girls or those guys that didn't cut the corners, that did the work, and it will show. Okay, this next tip is something that I feel so passionate about, and I will tell you why in a second. Well, I will show you why, sadly. And next tip, hire a posing coach and practice your posing all the time. In case you didn't hear me,
Practice your posing all the time.
get a posing coach. It is so important to know how to pose on stage, to know how to move, to know how to transition, especially the women in the divisions that wear heels. It is not easy. My camera overheated, and I think it's because it felt the passion that I was giving off while talking about posing. And I will tell you why. I did my first show. Didn't have a coach, so you know what that means. Of course I didn't have a posing coach. But I didn't have a regular coach. You can bet your ass I didn't have a posing coach. I will say I went to one lesson with one woman before my first show, and it was not enough. It did not help me. I mean, she was fine. She was great. She was helpful in that moment, but one session is not enough. You need to be posing with a coach every week, and then on your own every day. You need to get to a point where posing feels natural. It's almost like second nature. You could do it in your sleep. You could do it with your eyes closed. You could do it without looking at yourself in the mirror. So I'm gonna show you the posing that got me 5th place out of 5 at my first show. And my posing coach now, her name is Patrice. She's a wonderful woman. I love her so much. She's actually an NPC judge as well, and she judged my first show, and she didn't know who I was then, obviously. Once we started working together, I showed her the picture, and I was like, I'm pretty sure you were a judge at my show. And then I showed her, and she was like, oh my God, yes. She said, your physique was fine, like it was there. If you had posed better, you would have placed better. And that always stuck with me from then on. So your physique can be the best, and my physique wasn't the best on stage. Like, I wouldn't have won if my posing was better, because there were just girls that looked better than me. But your physique can be phenomenal. But if your posing is shit, you're not gonna place as well, because you are not giving your physique the credit it deserves, because you're not posing in ways to make it look the best way that it can. Posing is all about highlighting your strong points and kind of masking and disguising your weaker points. So if you get a posing coach that knows what he or she is talking about and knows the way to make your physique look its best and its most streamlined, that is so, so important. And I will show you, so I just showed you my 2015 heinous posing. I will show you a side to side of my 2015 show without a posing coach to my last show where I won the overall, and I was posing all the time. It makes a huge difference, and my physique in my most recent show is obviously much better than it was in 2015 regardless, but Your posing is so important and it makes such a big difference. So keep that in mind if you're thinking about competing for the first time. If you do all this work and you bust your ass to get the physique that you are striving for, and then you get on stage and you can't present it in the best way possible, you're not gonna get the placing that you might feel you deserve. I wanna touch on show tans. So if you know anything about competing, you know that the spray tans are pretty intense. They are meant to be super, super dark so that when you're under the bright lights on stage, your muscles are popping. Because if we didn't get the tans, if I went on stage with this color, I would get up there and be just totally washed out. I would look like this shirt. They always have a vendor at the show doing the tans. But I recommend always booking your tan through the show vendor. A lot of times people will get their own tans from like other places, and that's fine. But there are times when you get on stage and you might see someone who looks a little green or even like a little red, or is just like not dark enough, or it's really patchy. And those things do take away from your overall score. Everything gets considered. So if you book your own tan and then you get on stage next to everyone else and your tan sticks out because it's different, it'll show up in the pictures. If they are offering a tanning service, just book it through that. Show up the day before, get your base coat, and then the morning of the show, you'll usually get like your next layer. It's easy. You just show up, everything's there for you. The people are there to help you, and they can touch you up throughout the day, which is super, super important as well. Okay, so my last tip might seem cheesy or corny, but it's very important in my mind, and that is to enjoy the process of the prep. At the end of the day, no one's forcing you to do this. You have chosen to commit yourself to something, and that says a lot about you. So as someone who was a competitive athlete my whole life, I have always wanted to win. And that's just me, that's who I am, I'm a Taurus. So when I decided that I wanted to compete for the first time, obviously, you know, some people do it for themselves, they do it for different reasons, but at the end of the day, it's a competition and you wanna win, right? But you also want to have fun with it. Competing is so cool and it's such a grind, and it can be super, super hard at times. And it's not all fun and games. It's not all fairies and rainbows and happy and energy. There will be times when your energy is low. All you want to do is eat a freaking donut and you might just want to quit. But if you committed to this, you've decided that you want to give this your all, you want to go for it, make sure you're enjoying the process too. Show day, it's so much fun. And even the whole peak week leading up to it, it's I don't know, I just love it. And my last prep was so good. And obviously there were times when it was really hard and I would have a mini mental breakdown, but it's unlike anything else I've ever done. And I just think if you're gonna commit to it, you might as well have fun with it, you know? Then you can look back and you can say, I did that. I enjoyed myself. It was freaking hard, but I achieved what I wanted to achieve and I gave it my all and it was so much fun. I still look back to my last show and it was like one of the best days ever for me. The whole process was so fun. Obviously, winning the overall was the best part, but the whole process was fun. You know, the night before, getting my first coat of tan, carbing up, being backstage and meeting people backstage. It's so fun. I don't know, I love it. I think it's great. And I'm really, really excited for my next show day, but that's a long way away from now. So anyway, I'm gonna wrap up this video here. I hope that this was helpful for you. If you have any other questions regarding competing, feel free to drop them in the comments below. I could always do a part 2 to this video. So there are a lot of tips that go into competing for the first time. So these were just the first few that came to my mind. So I hope that you guys enjoyed. Please give me a thumbs up. Let me know how you liked this video in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.